every single day. Hard work means consistency, and resilience is don't give up. Every failure is followed by success, is followed by a failure, and keep your head in a stable place and show up to work with the same energy every single day. That's the values that have been inculcated in me, and I think that's held me in good stead in running and working in this company.
Welcome to Whisking It All with your host, Angela Esposito, co-founder of Whisk.ai, a food and beverage intelligence platform. We're going to be interviewing hospitality professionals around the world to really understand how they do what they do.
Welcome to another episode of Whisking It All. We're here today with Vishal Agarwal, founder and CEO of It's a Checkmate. Vishal, thank you for being here with me today.
Thank you, Angela. Thank you for inviting me.
Of course. I mean, as always, we like to start the episode with just telling our viewers that might not know, or listeners that might not know, what the company actually does. So can you start by just telling us what is It's a Checkmate?
Sure. What we do for a living is, again, we've evolved as a company. The core product that we started out with was integrating third-party orders into the POS systems of restaurants.
Right.
So you have Grubhub, Uber Eats, DoorDash, and when we started, there was Postmates and Caviar and multiple other solutions. Integrating all of those solutions into the core POS systems of the restaurants. Today, we integrate with over 50 different POS systems and over 40 different online ordering platforms. So we've obviously evolved from just the big three delivery platforms, and now we integrate all of the digital channels for a restaurant. So our goal and focus is to help restaurants become digitally omnipresent and to ensure that they're able to push out the menu and receive orders from multiple digital channels and be present where their customers are present. That's
awesome. Well, and I'm always curious to understand the story behind it. So what inspired you to kind of create a company that focuses on, digital ordering for restaurants?
Yeah. I would love to have some inspirational story, but the honest fact is I stumbled upon it. And Angelo, I don't know, can I share my screen?
Yeah, you should be able to.
Yeah. I have an image that I always keep open because that's how I got my start.
I love it.
This picture is taken in Brooklyn in 2017. The genesis of the company was I wanted to start a company where you could use
And Vishal, I'm just going to jump in because this goes on YouTube, but it also goes on audio platforms. So people who are listening on Spotify or Apple Music, Vishal is currently showing me a picture of a restaurant in Brooklyn with 9 tablets opened next to the POS. So sorry, I just wanted to interject to paint the image, but please go on.
Thank you for that context. I started off with the idea of developing a mobile app that you could use to pay and split your check using your phone. When you're dining in restaurants, so you don't have to wait for the check or splitting a check. That's where the name Checkmate comes from. Obviously, I couldn't afford the domain name checkmate.com, so we went checkmate.com. I was trying to sell that. It had been about a year and a half, and a guy told me, listen, you seem like a nice guy. You're selling something that's nice to have, but this is the real problem we have. Can you help me solve this? Right? So just being in the restaurant industry, visiting restaurants every day, speaking with operators, that's literally what got us the start.
Wow.
Right? When you see a problem like this, and again, for the audio viewers, this is a restaurant where you walk up to the counter and you order your food. And you literally have to tower over these 9 tablets to order food. That's a bad experience. That defeated the entire purpose of the structure of that restaurant, right?
Right.
So that's how we got started with SMBs, and even today we serve the entire spectrum, all the way from a one location mom and pop shop all the way up to a national brand like Wendy's and Arby's and Five Guys. So
yeah, I saw that on LinkedIn. You guys work with Five Guys among other national brands. That's pretty impressive, right? From idea to landing those types of clients.
That it is a very, very humbling experience. We were at the Five Guys headquarters last week doing our business review, and I told them I don't take this for granted. And I think it's that service-oriented approach that we take really resonates well with the larger brands that we work with.
That's really cool. And then just to paint the picture, right? So you're there, you're working on your problem, and it's funny because this is something I hear often with entrepreneurs, including myself. You're kind of trying to solve one problem, and in solving that problem, you realize there's something else that's not a vitamin, but a real pain. And you're like, okay, I want to build this painkiller, not this vitamin. So when you started, let's say with that client, I'd love to and we'll go deeper, but just to understand the backstory. So you see this newer, bigger problem. What does that actually look like? Because we have a lot of entrepreneurial listeners. I'd love to hear, like, how did the pivot happen and how did you go about, developing and starting and testing to then, fast forward now work with Wendy's and Arby's, et cetera?
Yeah, absolutely. And I can promise you my journey is not unique. Like, I'm sure there are millions and millions of founders who have gone through this process. So even if it's not new, when I learned about this problem, I went back, I had a list of 30 or 50 odd operators, and I emailed them with this picture saying, hey, is this a problem you have? And would you like to have a solution? I think 50% of them responded within 24 hours. Yes. Wow. Yes. So then I go back to my CTO and I said, I'm not an engineer, but I've hired engineers, I manage engineering team. I know the problem it solves and how it solves it. So I go back to my CTO. I was like, I just sold a solution. Can you help me build it now? That's right. That's how all startups get their chance. But it was, we still remember the very first days, Angelo. It was very, very unnerving because we were processing real customer orders. Like, I live in New York. I order delivery 3 to 5 times a week. If I don't get my food, I'm pissed, right? So it was very unnerving because A, we were handling real order transactions, and B, we were affecting the revenue of a real restaurant. So this is not sandbox anymore. This is out into the real world. You're playing, touching live electric wire. I know what I had done at that point is I spent a lot of time physically sitting in that first restaurant, making sure that this works. There is no substitute being hands-on, being physically present, understanding the pain points, talking to the operators. Don't talk to the managers who sit in corporate office. This is not their problem. This is a problem. This is not their problem. The problem is with the store manager who's actually there, the staff, the person who's hearing. Like, imagine if like right now my phone was ringing, right? If I don't either answer or disconnect within 5 seconds, my mind starts to get irritated.
Yeah.
Now multiply that by 9. While you're also taking a food order, preparing food, and all of these tablets are going off, they are the people that we really wanted to solve this problem for. So spending time in the restaurant, sitting in the dining table hall, going behind the counter, understanding how the receipts print, understanding like, hey, this order took 10 seconds to inject versus this took 15 seconds. Do you have a problem? And they're like, no, it takes us 2 minutes to physically punch it in. So if you can do it faster than 2 minutes, we're good. So understanding what really matters to them, right, and optimizing for that. It was a tremendously fruitful journey. And, it's been 7 years now, 6+ years doing this, but I still remember that experience. It was so valuable because even today, I can understand ops. We have a team now that manages this, and I'm not involved, obviously, as much in the day-to-day. But I feel comfortable and confident that I don't sound like an idiot when I'm talking to my VP of ops or VP of customer support. They're like, okay, his impression is okay. He's not talking like an idiot. Yeah.
No, and there's a lot of value in that. It's funny because at Whisk, I was the same way, so similar to you in the early days, like boots on the ground, going in. We got, larger clients that were doing inventory, and I'm like, oh man, that's a massive wine cellar. Okay, I want to be there. And you start uncovering things that, you don't really think of until you're there. And one of the ones that always comes to mind was we were at this hotel, 5-star hotel. We were getting the restaurant of that hotel. Everything's amazing. Like, okay, let's go count the wine cellar. And I wanted to be there to help them set it up because it was probably early days. So we probably didn't have a lot of the wines in our database. So I'm there. And then all of a sudden we go in the elevator and we keep going down. And I'm like, oh no, where is this wine room, and it was like level 8 basement. So the minute we're down there, I'm like, there's no chance there's a router down here. There's no chance there's internet. So we get in there, and I'm just like, shit, like our app doesn't work without Wi-Fi. Like we didn't think of that. It was early days. And even if we did, not like we would have developed it day one anyways. But anyways, long story short, I just kind of manually started taking pictures and writing it in like my notes app. Like, okay, they have 6 of these and 5 of these. And, weeks later, we eventually developed it. And so many of like the good ideas that our clients now appreciate, I always say it's not this like genius behind the scene. It's really just being on the ground and be like, okay, this is clearly a problem. Let's see if we can solve it. And so I totally resonate with being there.
Yeah, that's what we always talk about, even, with Brett, our VP of product. And like, listen, let's talk to customers. Let's not be nerds sitting behind computers solving problems that don't exist.
Exactly.
Really talk to customers, because what you think is a cool idea may be very different from what is a relevant idea. Is
Agreed.
it really solving problems, right? And that's where a lot of our efforts and resources go. It doesn't
amazing.
have to be cool. It has to solve a problem, because this is the restaurant industry. They're literally playing with fire every single day. So,
No, I love that. And I know, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you're currently working with over 23,000 restaurant locations. So I'd love to know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. That's correct?
Yeah. We are now up to 27,000. We have to update that.
Oh, wow.
Stat. Yes.
Okay, so I'll update that stat, and I'll update that here. 27,000 locations. That's insane. So first of all, congrats, because that's from one location to 27,000. That's no easy feat. But one of the things I love to share is maybe any kind of success stories. I'm sure there's a ton, because you have 27,000 customers. But any that kind of stand out the same way, I remember that client with the wine inventory. Is there any clients that you can share maybe a success story that might resonate with the audience?
Yeah, the first largest client we had was Five Guys. Then the next one was Arby's, right? Then obviously within the Inspire brands, we had others which we really value, and we went down to Wendy's, and we've recently won another large account that we'll be talking about shortly. I think the one consistent theme that I've always gone back to is, put your money where your mouth is. Right? If you're really saying yours is the best solution, do you have it built into your business model to provide a free trial, a risk-free trial to the client? Don't spend that time in doing sales decks and massive marketing campaigns and flying your salespeople out and sending bottles of wine to get their attention. Once you have their attention, what is it that you can really, really deploy on the ground level, in the stores? Does it work? Can you back it up with the right service? And be bold enough to tell, whether it's a single location client or a 6,000 location client, I will do this for you for free for 5, 10, 20 locations for a couple of months. You tell me if it works for you or not. So I think that's the one most important. And, I guess we've been guilty of that as well in the past. But we as generically SaaS providers, we are so quick to cater to our investors or to cater to, our balance sheet. Like, cater to your customers first, right? The rest will follow. So don't try and jump into like, hey, we need you to sign a 3-year contract because, well, that's what the Wall Street wants. Can you really support a month-to-month contract with these customers? Right? Because you'd have to win them over every single month. And that means that's the message that you have to resonate across the board in your organization, saying every single one of you is responsible for customer retention. Right? So I think that's my biggest, that's been the pillar of every single large client we want. With every one of those that I mentioned, we've gone in with like, hey, thank you for connecting with us. Either we got referred through a partner, or they heard about us, or we were persistent enough. They gave us a shot. In that trial period, in that ops, don't tell them to sign a 20-page contract, because then the legal fee is more than your bill. And don't go in straight with like, hey, you need to give me $10,000 first, and then you need to sign a 3-year. Can you deploy at their locations first? Mm-hmm. Can you give them the service? Can you back up what you're saying? Like, hey, you're the best solution. Sure, can you show it to me?
Yeah.
I mean, it's easy for us to say because we are SaaS and we have no hardware yet. We will be launching our first hardware solution in Q2 in the form of a kiosk. So we'll see how far this theory goes. But up until now, that's been our number one source of how we've been able to win big accounts.
That's amazing. And I think there's great advice in that of actions speak louder than words, right? So getting your product in their hands, them seeing it for themselves, there's no bigger testimonial than just the raw data and what's actually happening. So just to imagine, I know you have countless pilots that you did like this, but in general, what would the process look like? You chit chat with the client, eventually you'd convince them or encourage them, hey, no risk, let's try this in a subset of all your restaurants, and then what would a typical output look like? They would try it, and what type of results would they see before saying, oh, this is awesome, I want to now roll out to across the nation?
I mean, that's exactly right. They would give us a subset of locations and they will say, hey, we'll connect you to our lab first. Let's pull the lab menu. Let's inject some test orders, build out the menu. Again, this goes back to a lot with, we've been working very hard with this mindset that we are not a technology company. We are a technology-enabled company. We don't provide technology. We provide solutions. And technology is a big part of that solution, but technology by itself is not the entire solution. It's technology backed by service that gives you the superlative solution that solves your problem. So when we are connecting, the third-party menus or the digital menus of the brands with their POS systems, we're not just saying, let's see what you have and connect that. We're saying, can we also look at your menu? Maybe your menu is not set up right. Can we help optimize it? That's the level that we start at. Even during free pilots, we say, can we start with looking at a menu? Very honestly, it's quite rubbish. We have some best practices. Let's optimize. That's the level we start at. We connect with their POS. We do trial runs. We set up their menu on Uber Eats, DoorDash, or the choice of their digital platform.
Yeah.
And, it may seem like, okay, once you've done the connection, then what is there to it? But I can promise you 2/3 of the problem with the large brand is solved by technology. 1/3 is super customized to what they need. So really honing in on their requirements. When do you want the orders to fire? How do you want the kitchen receipts to look? Hey, can we trial this location here with this kind of test market? Or can we shuffle the menu for this particular set of locations because we're doing an extra promo? The extent of service, to me, it's 2/3, 1/3. 2/3 technology, 1/3 service-based, because that's what the enterprise clients need. That's what your Arby's and your Five Guys and, your White Castles, they require that level of customized solution because this is an ever-growing part of their business.
That makes a ton of sense.
Digital is not a stepchild anymore. It's a core part of their household, right? That's the level we start at, and then we go into their real locations, launch with 1, 5, 10 locations, prove it out, and then scale. But just last week, we rolled out 1,800 locations for a client. It may seem like, we did 1,800 in 3 weeks, but it took 3 months of solid prep work before that, or even more, actually.
Even more, yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. It's amazing to hear. And I know that it's a Checkmate. And again, maybe these numbers are slightly higher now, but from what I read, integrates with over 50 POS systems and 100 ordering platforms. So how do you manage to keep everything running smoothly? At Whisk, we integrate with about the same, I think 55, 60-ish POS systems. So I know it's not easy. I can't even imagine adding 100 ordering platforms on top of the POS systems we already integrate with. So how do you do it? And how do you keep everything running smoothly?
It's a business, right? We follow the same fundamental principles. One thing that I really like about us and as the entire top management team is we're always looking to learn. We're always looking to grow. We're always saying, hey, what can we do better? So we try to follow good solid fundamental business practices, right? I know it sounds a lot, 50 POS systems, 100 ordering platforms, but that's what we do for a living, right? So you have to do it well. It's not like you have other options.
Yeah.
I think the two pillars of what I would say we've built, number one is people. Nothing happens without the right team. So the team is absolutely fantastic. They understand what they're signing up for, and then they commit, and they do a great job with it. The second pillar, I would say, is documentation. Again, massive focus throughout the organization. We built an entire team around documentation now to say, hey, I don't even want to do the permutation and combination of the number of settings you could have with 50 POS systems and 100 ordering platforms, right?
Right.
The only way to manage, backed by technology again, is solid documentation. Again, because we are so heavily service oriented, this documentation is easily public facing as well. But when customers who are literally like it's a 5 location client dealing with a massive meltdown in their restaurant, you're not going to go tell them to read documentation to figure out how to turn platform off or change the prep time. They can simply shoot us a text, shoot us an email, and we'll take care of it for them. So in terms of documentation and training, and obviously just building a right team.
I love that. And then I know one of the things that you mentioned, or you guys mentioned on your website at least, is that you help restaurants manage and protect the revenue. So I'd love to know, like in practice, can you give some examples? Like obviously we're talking about the chaos and simplifying from 9, getting everything into 1, but I'd love to get a bit deeper. Yeah. How do you help them manage and protect the revenue?
Yes, absolutely. The 3 key, tenets, and this is more of an internal speak, is, power, manage, evolve. So we have
say that again, power,
manage, and evolve. Right. Power is we help you be present in all of these digital platforms. We help integrate those directly to the POS system.
Yeah.
But, let's say you own a Buffalo Wild Wings store, right? And one day you wake up in the morning and you forget to open that store, right? You just forget to open that store. What happens? 0 revenue, right? But you won't forget to open that store because why? It's a physical store. You can see it. It's part of your routine. You will know.
Yeah.
But if you forget to switch on your online ordering platform, your first party, your Uber and your DoorDash and your Grubhub and your waiters and the others, you won't know. You will just forget because you will get on with your day. So this is again a very specific example how we are taking like real world examples and trying to devise solutions so operators who manage locations at 50 locations, 100, 500 locations. We are developing alerting systems, dashboards, high-level dashboards for truly enterprise clients to help manage their operations better. We've just rolled out, and it's still in beta, but we rolled out a real-time dashboard to show across your entire ecosystem. Let's say you are a Buffalo Wild Wings franchisee or a Sonic franchisee that manages 100 locations. How do you know that your digital operations are going well?
Good question.
We've rolled out a real-time dashboard that shows what's the injection rate, what's the uptime, downtime by POS, by location. And now we're evolving this to say, how is your cancellation rate? How is your driver wait time? How is your refund percentage? What does your customer approval rating look like across platforms? So giving you a single unified place, collating information from various sources. So you look at it and you say, these 3 stores are out of whack. I need to go fix it.
Yeah, that's massive.
But also, we're thinking about, okay, this is a UI-based solution, right? There's a user interface, there's a web-based solution. We are working on a mobile app for restaurant operators. But how do you make it UI-less? So you don't need a user interface, right? Like, hey, if I'm the manager of 30 stores, and my biggest selling item is this particular cheeseburger. So anytime a store manager who manages one store marks this cheeseburger as out of stock, and if it's out of stock for more than 3 hours, I want to know. Can you send me a text alert on this? That's my highest selling item. I know we never run out of stock. How the hell is this out of stock for 3 hours or 3 days? Depending on your level,
Right.
Again, trying to give very specific examples on how we are helping them manage their digital operations, right? Similarly, you can extrapolate it to say, if any of my stores are marked as offline on DoorDash and Uber Eats for more than a day, I want to know. And I want to know about this every single day until the cows come home, right? So you can set up alerts and reportings and email alerts and text alerts so that you are constantly notified. So you're managing what we call management by exception. I've set up a monitoring system. Just tell me what's not working well. And this has resulted in operators recuperating a lot of revenue that would otherwise have been lost.
Wow. That's huge. And it's funny because we talk about that internally as well, like the idea of how do we surface the data they need, right? Because like restaurants have so much going on. They got a million and one things, and it's just, yeah, you can give them a ton of data, but how do you give them what they need versus just like, here's a million KPIs versus, hey, here's something you should probably know. You're running out of this, or, this store is not doing well, or sales have dipped here. Like, how do you surface that? So that's super interesting, and definitely answers my question of how you're concretely helping restaurants, save that revenue. And I know, one of the things is also customer satisfaction, right? It's a big deal for any business, obviously, but I know it's something that you guys touch upon too. So maybe just to quickly get a sense, like for our listeners, how does It's a Checkmate help improve, maybe that side of things, that the customer satisfaction side?
The end user, the actual diner.
Yes.
How do we help
Yes.
improve their satisfaction? The thing about us, so we have recently launched our own first-party solution. We acquired a company exactly a year ago. And,
Oh, wow.
that's where we've become now a B2B2C company. Earlier, we
Right.
were just B2B, right? So
Right.
the end diners never even really knew that their orders were hitting our system, right? But again, I think one of the fundamental ways in which we help the experience of the end user as well as of that of the restaurant is by optimizing the menu. We have a specialist team that looks at the menu, can whip up various versions, and we are releasing a new product called DSOT, Digital Source of Truth. That is a truly enterprise menu management solution. We're releasing it in Q2. Wow, now that I'm telling you, I'm just realizing what a heavy product release quarter Q2 is becoming. It will help you in an automated way A/B test your menus. So I come from an e-commerce retail background, and if you go to any good e-commerce retail website, they will customize the website as per your preferences. The entire layout could look different, right? For a restaurant, we've been stuck in this age where everybody gets the same menu and that same order with the same details.
Right.
Right? Why? Like if you have a new LTO that you've launched, everyone sees the same picture and the same description. Why can't we A/B test?
Right.
Right? Spread it across. Let three versions run. Let the best man or woman win, and let that run across the larger spectrum.
So speaking of the digital source of truth, what's super interesting is and you kind of alluded to it, but it's so common in like the regular digital world, like e-commerce or just websites, right? Like let's A/B test these titles, or let's try two different call to actions and see which one performs. But the idea that you guys will be bringing that to the restaurant world and to menus, I think is massive, because it's, who knows, right? How much can a description help, right? How much can a picture help? And the answer is probably a lot. That's why there's teams that, there's companies that all they do is data science around menu engineering, and there's science behind the Cheesecake Factory's 20-page menu and pictures and whatnot. So there's a lot of complexity that I don't think the average person thinks about, but it's really cool that you're going to be able to offer this way of giving people that same experience they would with a website, but down to the menu level.
Down to the menu level, like, should you have 20 modifiers or 3 modifiers? Which one converts better? Simple things like this, we absolutely have to be able to test it out and not just rely on some one person's gut there, right? That's
huge. That's huge. And look, obviously you guys have built an impressive global presence. So kudos, 27,000 customers and growing. What's one piece of advice you'd give to entrepreneurs looking to grow their business?
I don't think so. I'm as wise enough, to be able to give advice. It's not related to being an entrepreneur or founder or having a company or not having a company. First, huge kudos to everyone who tries to start their company. It doesn't matter if it works or not. It takes a huge amount of effort and guts to do that. I think it's just a personal value is just hard work and resilience. Like every single day, hard work means consistency, and resilience is don't give up, every failure is followed by a success, is followed by a failure, and keep your head in a stable place and show up to work with the same energy every single day. That's the values that have been inculcated in me, and I think that's held me in good stead in running and working in this company.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. It's people see the overnight success. They don't see the 6, 7, 8 years before that. So I totally relate to that. So well said. And then last but not least, just I always like to kind of just talk about the future of hospitality and restaurant tech in general. Where do you see restaurant tech and evolving in the next few years?
For us, the focus is to become the center of a restaurant's digital ordering business. So something that we touched upon earlier is we want to help power all of your digital channels, but not just
Yeah.
that, we want to help you manage them. In addition to managing, we want to help you evolve. So now that you have three and you can manage them well, why don't you add another three and see how that goes?
Interesting.
Because then you'll not be flying blind. You'll have complete dashboard control over what you're doing. Where I see this space going, everybody talks in very generic terms like, oh, there's going to be consolidation, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really funny to me. It's like saying, the sun will rise. I'm like, I'm sorry, you're not a genius for saying the sun will rise.
Yeah.
But if you can tell me exactly when the sun will rise down to the last minute, then you're a genius, right? Without using your gadgets.
Yeah.
Where I think the restaurant space is evolving is there is going to be consolidation. And there is this talk about, enterprise customers are tired of having multiple solution providers and they want just one tech stack and they want one place to control it all or one throat to choke. I'm a big believer in the space between 0 and 1, which is a million possibilities. 0 means everything is provided by one big company. 1 means you have to stitch together 20 different solution providers to get one answer. I think the answer will stabilize somewhere in between, where you won't have 20, but could you have 2 or 3 different solution providers combined to provide you one solution? So that
Makes sense.
now think about it like from a service solution provider, I would love to be that company, right? So one solution provider, the Omni God and everything.
Yeah.
But if you think about it from an operator's perspective, like a CTO or CIO, why would they put all of their eggs in one basket? Then they would have no leverage over pricing, over feature sets, over product roadmap. So they want to keep it distributed, but they don't want to keep it too distributed. So I think it's going to shake out somewhere in between in terms of the value an operator expects vis-a-vis the value the solution providers can provide.
That makes a ton of sense. And I got one last question for you, and then I'd love for you to plug. I was like ending off with where people can find It's a Checkmate, anywhere you guys are on social, et cetera, et cetera. But the last question I want to ask, and it comes to mind just because you deal so much with online orders and that type of stuff. I'm just curious to get your opinion. It doesn't have to be the company's opinion, but what's your opinion with downtown cores getting back to where they were, pre-COVID. So it was something I was talking about recently with a buddy of mine, and we're just talking about how a lot of restaurants that are in downtown cores, during relied a lot on office culture and whatnot. But with a lot of these offices not going back, a lot of the deliveries is happening more in the suburbs and stuff. And obviously the downtown core that live there maybe will use the deliveries. But I'm curious to get your perspective. Do you ever think these downtown cores are going to go back to where they were? I'm just curious to get your perspective on that.
We've always been a remote company. We started off as remote back in 2016. So we didn't go remote because of COVID. I think it was my personal belief that let's hire the best talent wherever they are. Why be restricted to a single city?
I love that.
I'm not a fan of getting an office space in Manhattan.
A lot of overhead, yeah.
Again, because I'm a big believer in remote and have been since day one before the COVID hit, before the pandemic hit, I truly think remote work is here to stay, right? But I also recognize that there are some companies where they're like, no, remote work won't work because employees are frankly skipping work. They're not being as productive, so we're going to call them back. Calling employees back to work is basically a form of better monitoring, right? Like, so I can have a better oversight on you. So I do think it's going to come back some, like if it went from 100 to 0, it will come back. I don't think so it'll come back to the same 100 level because now employees recognize the value of remote. And very frankly, we get some amazing resumes and people reaching out to us saying, hey, we'd love to work because our companies are asking us to come back full time. And we like remote and we've gotten to the rhythm and we now have a good balance in life. And And this is what we know better now.
Yeah.
So I don't think so it'll go back to where it was, but I do think it will not be at the crashed level that it was during COVID, or where people thought, oh, the office culture is dead. I don't think so that's happening.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Having said that, again, restaurants, they will continue, especially in the downtown core, they will continue to serve the core constituents. If you talk about the financial district here in Manhattan, there is never a dearth of tourists, COVID or no COVID. And then, again, a lot of volume being picked up by delivery, a lot of volume. Because people still love these restaurants, and you cannot deliver like a mile, 2 miles. I don't even know how big an island Manhattan is, but I can get food delivered from downtown now, right? So
Right.
I don't. Again, it's about the overall business of the restaurants, which I think is going to be pretty consistent.
That makes sense. It's funny what you said about being remote first. Like, we're big believers in that too. And the analogy I always joke around about is like, it's like finding, it's like dating, if you didn't have to be in person, but what are the chances you'll find a perfect match in a radius of, 1 mile versus the whole world? And the bigger the pool, like you'll find that match. But what the negative part was, like, post COVID, when everyone started working remotely, it was one of our like competitive advantages. So we were able to get like really good talent that maybe didn't want to go to a more corporate job because we offered that. And then it was like, damn it, now everyone's offering this. So I'm happy to see some people are, like you said, forcing back to office culture, because it'll give us that competitive edge.
I did not know even Whisk did remote first. Good to know.
Yeah. We're big believers. At one point, we had like a small office in Toronto, but since the beginning, like a lot of the team, especially the product side, was fully remote. Like talking from South America to Europe to US, Canada. So really, kind of just, if there's good talent, we're hiring. Doesn't matter where you live, That's awesome. Well, look, just to wrap things off, Vishal, this is great. Like, congrats on all the success. For people listening, we have a lot of restaurant listeners, a lot of entrepreneur listeners. Where can they find you? Where can they find It's a Checkmate? And like, any plugs you want to make, this is your chance. We'll be sharing this. We'll also publish this in our newsletter as well, on our website, on YouTube, on Spotify, you name it. So anything you want to plug, I'm happy to like have our team add in the description as well.
Oh, thank you. If you want to reach out, explore our solution, it's a checkmate.com. Is a great starting place. I'm always accessible at Vishal at It's a Checkmate. My LinkedIn profile, feel free to reach out, connect, DM, always happy to have a conversation. That's it.
That's awesome. Well, you heard it here first with Vishal Agarwal from It's a Checkmate, so you guys can check them out. It was a pleasure having you on the show today, Vishal. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Really appreciate it.
Feel free to check out Whisk.ai for more resources and schedule a demo with one of our product specialists to see if it's a fit for you.